We're rooted in culture and your window to the stories that matter. From news to lifestyle, we inform, entertain, and uplift. Join Rapid TV on Star Times channel.
Nigeria's economy, the global markets, what does it all mean for you? From stock market insights to global financial news you need to know. From Wall Street to the main street and, of course, the marketplace. Get the answers you need every week on Business Lens with me, Faith Joseph, as I bring into focus the stories, strategies, and shifts shaping our economy. No angle is missed as I talk about the business, the people, patterns, and possibilities behind them. Welcome to the Business Lens.
My name is Akio Sakido.
Hey guys, this is Anto Lecky.
My name is Leo Bliss.
My name is Akava, go by the name Baba D.
And you're tuned into Rapid TV. I love Rapid TV.
Shout out
Rapid TV.
Thank you, Rapid TV. Please keep watching
Rapid TV.
This is Rapid TV.
Rapid
TV.
Keep watching.
Keep it down.
Leave it like that.
All right, welcome to Business Lens on Rapid TV. My name is Faith Joseph, and as usual, of course, we get to run you through all the stories making the headlines when you talk about the economy or finance. So this Thursday, let's begin with major developments in the world of business, and we will start from the US, where Donald Trump, the president of the United States, is coming down hard on India and threatening a 25% tariff for buying oil and arms from Russia. And of course, he posted on his Truth Social about his calling it not good. And he accuses India of leveraging non-tariff barriers and maintaining excessively high duties on U.S. imports. Of course, we know that there's an August 1 deadline for countries to finalize trade agreements before tariffs hikes finally kick in. So I turn to my guest analyst as we unpack this. Of course, we have Mr. Abiola. Of course, they're regulars by now. And Daniel Efa. Welcome to the show, guys.
Good morning, Faith.
Good morning, Faith. It's good to be here.
All right, so let's talk about Donald Trump and this tariff thing is imposing. We know that there's an August 1 deadline, right? And we know that he decided to do this with India, talking about how Russia is killing people in Ukraine. And, you know, of course, he's also threatening sanctions on Russia. If he'll follow through, it's another thing entirely. But he's talking about imposing a 25% tariff on India for buying oil and buying arms from Russia.
Yeah, I think that we've seen from the beginning that the Donald Trump tariff plan has always been to ensure that there is a proper conversation with countries that have a negative net with the U.S. That means that those that send, that actually they import more from than the exports. And it's some people will see it as a form of control, right? Trade control shift or dynamics that makes it difficult for countries to be competitive when it comes to the global market. And now with this move with India, it now shows that it is not necessarily just around our local products that are not being properly sold
so
to your country.
So it's not about trade alone.
Yes, so that is the conversation, and that is where it gets interesting. That now it now looks like more of a tool to lobby or to influence decisions, because India, whether it is China, they've been buying sanctioned oil for the longest, whether it is of course openly or not, right? So now going through this route, you get to push a tariff on a country that, on a war that you had the right to join or not join at the early stages. You discarded, because the approach Donald Trump approach to the war made it elongated. It could have been solved as you joined, so as you became president. So now looking at India as the point of contact to show excessive trade power in quotes might come out very bad for the global economy. Now this is the problem. India is a very close ally of the US in terms of trade, right? In fact, in Asia, you take out China, take out what do you call it, in Japan and co, have already started forming their own kind of block because of the tariff conversations. India has been the only one that said, okay, we want to be neutral, we want to deal with everybody. So with this tariff, Let's see the response of Indian Prime Minister basically of this.
I mean, according to this, Mr. Abiola, of course, India says there's 7 conversations with the US on this. And what we also know is that India is a part of BRICS. So definitely a close relationship with Russia and China. India has it, but India has always tried to also maintain a close relationship with the US. But this is not just about India getting a 25% tariff, and Trump that had said he would not get involved in wars and things like that, now using this as a tool. We also see what is happening with Brazil, with the President Leonardo Silva, because Trump is saying that is going to impose a 50% tariff on Brazil. Why? Because of Boy Bolsonaro, that's the former president. He said they're targeting him unfairly. So this is going beyond trade. It is going beyond trade now for Trump, who had said he wasn't going to get involved in any country's disputes or whatever.
You know, this goes beyond Trump, right? Because at the end of the day, Trump is just one man. There's a whole lot of people and a whole country behind him. We're talking about the Congress and all that. And whether we like it or not, Trump has to dance to some extent also to whatever they are saying. Because you find out that not all these decisions might actually come from Trump directly, but he's representing a set of people. Now, for India, first of all, I would like to say that you are not jollof rice. Everybody cannot like you. You need to, at some point in time, take your stand and say, okay, this is what we stand for. Gone are the days where people look at India as, oh, just that country. You're talking about population, I think they're the second highest population in the world, if not the highest. So, you're talking about commerce, talking about technology, a whole lot has happened to India in the past 2-3 decades. So I think it's time for India to be able to push their might and say, yes, we'll stand. Look at what China did for themselves. At the point in time, it was as if China was close to the entire world, and they used their own population, leveraged on it, developed themselves, patronized themselves, and became a global power. Not that they were not before, but now bigger. If you're counting top 3, even top 2 in the world right now, after US, we're talking about China. Now, US will continue to do what would favor US. I said it the last time we discussed about this. I said, if I were Donald Trump, do you expect me to do what would favor India against US? I know that I'm twisting a lot of people. They are doing the big brother stuff, but they are doing what they're expected to do. What we need now is for other countries to also do what they're expected to do. For example, Nigeria, according to them, Nigeria had been giving US citizens a certain amount of months for visa. And at the point I was, okay, you have continued to give us, single entry, normal tourist visa 3 months. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. So Nigeria was doing what they felt was best for themselves. And US too say, okay, no problem, let's do what is best for ourselves. So it is time for other countries to also stand and say, US will do what US believe is the best for themselves. So do what is best for you.
I mean, at the end of the day, as we move away from this tariff conversation, we know that Donald Trump, he also met with the EU, and I think they agreed a 15% tariff, which, what is interesting is that it's the highest that it's ever been, but the EU is saying, well, I mean, it's lower than the 30% you threatened us before, so we're good. Let's move over now because of time. So let's come to Nigeria, right? Let's talk about Nigeria's energy sector, and that is regarding the NNPCL and ongoing debate over refinery assets and fuel importation. Just weeks ago, that was early this month, there was that speculation that NNPCL might sell off, the long-dormant refineries we have in Nigeria, Warri, Port Harcourt, and Kaduna. Of course, this followed a statement by the new group CEO, Mr. Bayo Julari. He had said in an interview with Bloomberg that all options were on the table as the company reviews its downstream operations. Now, his remarks sparked this wide debate, and you remember at the time that Dangote, Aliko Dangote, he earlier pointed out that the refineries won't work despite this huge investments on them. And now you have Ojulari taking a swipe at his predecessor, Mele Kyari, who had claimed that the Port Harcourt refinery was not functional. Ojulari actually said, and I quote him, the earlier decision to operate the Port Harcourt refinery prior to full rehabilitation was ill-informed and sub-commercial. Ouch. But now, Ojulari is also coming with this tweet saying that NNPCL has no intention of selling the refineries. Quoting him again, says, although the progress is being made, selling is highly unlikely as it will lead to further value erosion. So let's talk about it. What exactly changed? Is it about pressure? Is it pragmatism? Or is it politics? Why did Ojulari now decide that, you know what, I don't think we're going to sell this refinery? And what was interesting is that at the forum where he made this statement, you had the workers, of course, workers don't want to lose their jobs. They're like, yes, this is good. You
Doing-
know,
doing
we're not
nothing.
selling well. So he's saying that we should not have said this was functional, but we're not going to sell it, even though he understands that it is not functional. What's going on here exactly?
It's a classic case of the politics of business, right? In the sense that for him to have come out to say it in the first place that this should be sold, he obviously had a report on his table. He obviously had seen, had gone to this refinery, see whatever technical report of this refinery was as in where, and some weeks later you're backtracking. It is so for a CEO, it gives two different conversations. It gives the fact that what we've been saying about the NNPCL being this very huge giant that is not effective, but somehow is taking all our attention. That's basically what it is doing. If you say something is not functional, it should not have kick-started in the first place, that it was sub-commercial. Those conversations mean that this thing is not working. That's what it means in simple terms. It is not working, right? Now, for Nigerians, there are different press statements about the fact that we spent close to 10 billion on this rehabilitation. In fact, I think it's only $1
billion.
dollars. I'm saying around. I'm saying yes.
Thank you for the
okay.
for the currency.
So now, I think only one of the refineries in Port Harcourt that is new. I think the other ones are meant.
And that one is not even finished.
Exactly. So if he's coming out to say that is the only one that we will be working on to make sure that it is functional, different conversation. But if you're saying the others that you've also accepted that
was blending oil.
Exactly. That was sub-commercial, should not have been. And you're still saying we want to say keep it because of what? What's the word they use? Value erosion. Value erosion. What is value erosion? Value erosion is actually a function of whatever your input is to getting a particular result, right? And if you're saying selling it would erode the value, and it doesn't make sense because what value is it posing in the first place?
Sorry to cut you, Danny. I don't think maybe it's another value we're talking about here. And let me explain. Now, you have 3 cars in your compound, okay, and you are considered to be a car owner, okay. Now, in your close, at some point, 2 of those cars are bad. They might never work again, except you sell it to maybe a mechanic or somebody else. Now, you keep it because you're saying that if you let go of these cars, it will create value erosion. Now, look at it in that light. You will no longer be called a car owner.
That's the only reason?
Well, that's what I'm saying, because which other value are we talking about here? Maybe you're saying that there would be an NNPC that has no refinery. Maybe if we look at it from that angle,
maybe
some things might start making sense. That, there is an NNPC in Nigeria, the biggest black populated country, but no refinery.
So is it about the fact that for the NNPC, they have to play at both upstream, midstream, and downstream? Is there any law that says that they must play in all of it?
Okay, so for business risk, right, for exposure, for energy security, which is not just money making, which is not just profitability, you are looking at, yes, you should play, but how you should play is another conversation entirely.
Exactly.
If you cannot get a refinery to work, why should you, right? So another business has started up in the same period. Same period we started all this rehabilitation process. Same period. And its function, in fact, is even trying to increase capacity.
Even smaller period, not same, smaller.
To 700,000. So that means that it is not about whether or not there is no money. It has been about the fact that efficiency is a problem. So if efficiency is a problem, just set it off.
Another thing is
stake
immediately you sell, maybe a lot of things will be demystified by the fact that these refineries can actually work.
I mean, at the end of the day, we also know that there's a politics of it. You have workers who would not like that to happen. But let's move on to our last headline, and that is talking about, still in the oil sector, Alhaji Aliko Dangote. I like it when he starts talking, right? It's always very interesting. This time, he's calling for a ban on the importation of refined petroleum products into Nigeria. It's not the first time. Anyway, he made this call after marketers decided to lower the prices of their fuel. And we know that he also quietly withdrew his lawsuit against both the NNPCL and the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, on fuel imports. And now it looks like maybe he's approaching this from the diplomacy angle rather than litigation. But he's also insisting that Nigeria First policy that was declared by the president should also apply to petroleum product imports to protect domestic refiners from unfair pricing. And he claims that some marketers are importing substandard fuel subsidized fuel, particularly from Russia, thereby undercutting local production. And it says it affects local pricing, forcing refiners to lower their prices below production costs. And it says domestic producers need to be protected from unfair pricing and unfair competition. But independent marketers are not on the same page with him. They're arguing that this is exactly what a liberalized market allows. Competition, pricing flexibility, that's what the market is about. And that banning imports would defeat the spirit of the regulation. Let's talk about it. This is not a first-time conversation.
Yeah.
So.
I'll just go straight to the point. I think that the target, or let me say the focus for Dangote should be that the quality of imports should be at par with what they are also producing, or with whatever the standard is. Not that they should be banned outrightly. You can say, okay, because we have regulatory authorities over the quality of petroleum products. Yeah, so this is the angle I feel you should have pursued. That, okay, I don't have a problem with people import, I'm not the government, whatever, but let the quality be at the standard that we expect it to be. And I think that once the quality is at that standard, pricing will also follow, because they can only price it cheaper if the quality is also lower.
Well, let's talk about this. Russian oil is lower. It's not like the quality is that bad. So if you have people buying maybe refined Russian crude and selling it, they might be able to undercut it, because right now, remember, the market has actually lowered their prices, and this is what is prompting him to make this particular call right now. After he lowered it, I think it's about 8.25, so now they're lowering that to 8.15, and he's saying he's undercutting them, the local producers, because now you're bringing subsidized petrol. We can't compete with that.
So it's subsidized?
So Dangote,
well, if it's Russian petrol, it is subsidized.
Well, that's true.
Dangote has benefited from a particular law, the PIA, but now you have benefited from a law, and you're now also trying to stop other businesses from benefiting from the same law. It is deregulation, right? The market is free for everybody to play. Just like Mr. Villa said, the focus should be about quality. The quality is there. This is the thing, and this is where I have a very unpopular opinion about where he gets his oil from. I've said it from the get-go that our oil is one of the most expensive oil in the market.
Bring out of the ground.
In fact, not about the bring out, the price of our crude is one of the most expensive because of the quality. We have one of the sweetest crude in the world. Right? In fact, that's what they use. So top 3, right? Now, these marketers, when it comes to deregulated, everybody wants to maximize profit. That's one of the key things, right? So I would prefer to get WTI, which is about $5-6 different. Yeah, lower than Brent, or even get the Dubai version, which is about maybe $7 or $8. There's cheaper oil, even in South America, cheaper oil. So Russia is even under sanctions. We would even have cheaper oil.
Much cheaper.
Iran, cheaper oil.
Yes, cheaper.
You would have cheaper oil across board. So as a refinery, your focus, Dangote should realize that his focus is not a Nigerian business anymore. No refinery in the world is set up to be it's a global business now. So you need to get global customers. Nigeria is there because, yes, we need some sort of energy security, which is one of the things that prompted you to set up that kind of project. 650,000 barrel per day refinery is not a Nigerian business. It's not possible.
But here's the thing. Let me also point this out. That he didn't just talk about Nigeria. He also mentioned African countries should protect African businesses and apply the Africa First policy like you see in America, especially where petrol imports are concerned. So you know that he's also selling and setting up refineries in other African countries. So basically he's looking at this and saying that, well, protects.
These things come in phases. It's
even deeper than oil when you involve Africa, because over the weekend I was still discussing with someone that the price of flights across Europe, for example, is a far cry from the price of flights across Africa. So they were talking about Africa unity and borderless system and protection of whatever Africa.
Protectionism, basically.
It's a big discussion. So let's just stay in oil.
He's focused on oil.
Let's just stay in oil because it's a whole thing. Because the whole thing, even if he wants it to apply to oil alone, it's kind of impossible, because for it to apply to oil, it has to apply for other things, And like Daniel said, a 650 BPD is an international business. He needs to now start opening up himself to how do I bring in crude, whether they give us or not? How do I also export as much as possible? How can I be competitive on the global stage? Because a lot of people will argue that Dangote has enjoyed some form of, government, whatever, over the years in different products, that when it comes to global competition, it's neither here nor there. So it is now time for, I believe that with whatever is going on in the refinery, with the capacity, it can actually compete, even Africa first, like you said, then globally.
I mean, we'll see what happens from this. I was calling for a ban and saying, you know what, don't bring in petrol.
You can't
But
ban.
It's not possible.
Ban. Why should you always ban?
or maybe just say, let's have some high tariff on imported petrol.
The ban.
That would translate.
There should be tariffs,
that's
but
okay.
it should be
Yeah.
at the point whereby we've gotten to a level whereby NNPC and all the players can guarantee local supply.
Yes.
Not a day supply.
Well, Dangote said that he
3
can.
month supply. That is when, but it can't be, because then Dangote's input comes from WTI and our own crude. It's expensive.
It is expensive for him.
It is not. We can't. Except there's a subsidy coming, and that's not possible.
That's not possible. Anyway. Thank you so much, guys, for being a part of this conversation. After now, we will be turning to the corporate front and talking about the recent announcement by the CAC to delist another round of dormant companies. And I have another guest coming on to talk about that, so stick around. This is still the Business Lens on Rapid TV.
Nigeria's economy, the global market, what does it all mean for you? From stock market insights to global financial news you need to know. From Wall Street to the Main Street and, of course, the marketplace. Get the answers you need every week on Business Lens with me, Faith Joseph, as I bring into focus the stories, strategies, and shifts shaping our economy. No angle is missed as I talk about the business, the people, patterns, and possibilities behind them. Welcome to the Business Lens.
Rapid TV, rooted in truth, driven by impact.
All right, welcome back. It's still the Business Lens on Rapid TV. And now we're going to move on to our major conversation today, and that's talking about where the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, has announced plans to delist yet another round of dormant companies. Now, according to a public notice that was released on Tuesday, the CAC says it will strike off the names of over 100,000 companies that have failed to file annual returns for more than a decade. Notes that most of these firms were incorporated between 2002 and 2006, and this is now the Commission's fifth batch under the enforcement of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. The CAC is giving affected companies a 90-day grace period to comply or risk being permanently struck off the register. It is also warning that companies delisted lose legal standing and can no longer operate. So let's unpack the implications of these developments, from the CAC's, talk, and I'm going to go on to my guest now, who is Ebuka Williams Obedima Esquire. He is representing the law firm Synergy Legal Partners, and we're going to be talking about this together. Welcome to the show, Barrister.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so, you have seen this news, you've seen this story, and I must also note that is also coming on the back of the CAC telling us that it is increasing fees starting August 1, for registration of companies and all of that. I don't want to say that it is connected, but, this is Nigeria. But let me get your views, on this. The CAC is saying we're just following the Act, the Companies and Allied Matters Act of 2020 to delist these companies. Do you think that this is something that the CAC should be doing now, considering there's 100,000 companies?
Okay, thanks very much. So from my point of view, and from my experience as a lawyer, I can tell you categorically clear that this is long overdue. Okay, so the purpose behind delisting these companies is not that of witch hunting or wickedness. It's more like trying to sanitize the corporate space. What that means is that as a company, it's your responsibility to update the CAC, to let the CAC know that, yes, we're in existence, that we are in progress doing business, and that these are the people who are governing our affairs. Basically, to let it be a transparent transaction. It's not a one-man business where you just register a business and go hide somewhere. Okay, and being what it is, we have companies who are practically ghost companies, used to launder money and all that. So the CAC wants to ensure that these companies are transparent to their activities. That way, they get to checkmate them. This is their job as CAC, to checkmate them, to regulate them and all that for the safety of all Nigerians. So delisting them and giving them giving the warning of delisting them is a way to call them to order, hey, come to us, tell us what you're up to on a yearly basis. If not, you are not going to be a company anymore in Nigeria.
There are some arguments that, because the CSE is saying, if you comply for this 90-day period, if you come and file your returns, which also means that if you have not filed returns for over 10 years, you have to back it, you'll pay for the entire 10 years.
Yes.
So some people are saying, this is about revenue, not necessarily about sanitizing the space. Okay. But then there's also the arguments that there are some of these companies that may not be filing annual returns for the CAC, but they're probably filing the FIRS.
Yes.
They're filing other things. So what happens with that?
Okay, I'll start with the aspects of revenue. To be honest with you, there's no problem in seeking killing two birds with one stone.
Okay.
From my point of view. So the CAC, yes, indeed, they are required by law to maintain a transparent register. And at the same time, they also need revenue to run the system. And if I must say, CAC has been one of the most progressive commissions in Nigeria right now, and they've been updating their systems. So this costs money, and that means they have to get revenue. So if by reminding everyone to update their annual returns, that's do the right thing, they can make revenue from that. I mean, why not? They can take a shot at that, and hopefully that maintains a proper registry for us. Now, yes, they are also updating their fees. And like I said before, they are in the move they are like the most progressive, in my point of view, in all commissions. So yes, the dues are quite overdue, quote unquote, and I think it's high time they increase it in face of the economic realities we have today. So they're updating their systems, they have to pay, make remittances to the federal government and all that. I mean, that costs money.
But let's talk about the fact that some companies are also filing FIRS returns without necessarily...
Okay. FIRS returns is filed to the FIRS. It's more like your taxes as well. Whereas CAC returns, annual returns, it's very different from FIRS returns. And I've had some of my clients come to me and say, oh, I've been filing FIRS returns, and I understand them. And to be honest, most businesses want to make money and not lose money. So when they file annual return, when they file their FIRS returns, they come under the assumption that they filed or they've needed to file, but that's not the case. FIRS returns is your tax returns. You file out to the Federal Inland Revenue Services of the federal government, of that of the states, by the way, and then you file your CAC returns to the Corporate Affairs Commission. Now, the two are separate because one is the way of updating the FIRS on your taxes, while the other is the way of updating the CAC on your affairs. Two very different obligations which must be met by every company in Nigeria.
Do you think it's ignorance, for some companies that have not been filing, their CAC returns? Do you think it's about ignorance, or do Nigerians lack compliance regulations? Is that Nigerians don't like to comply with these issues, or is this ignorance that they didn't know that they were supposed to file these annual returns with the CAC every year?
Okay, that's a question. That's a multi-edged question, if I may put it like that, because some do not know, while some know and neglect. That's the truth about it. Personally, I make it a point of duty to tell my clients what you're up for before you reach their company. And then I go a step further to tell them on a yearly basis, because I tend to want to file all during the same period, because I have a grace period to file before which you can get into the penalty group. So I tell my clients mostly towards the end of the year or at the beginning of the year. I tell you, hey, most guys kind of tend to relate to them in that way, because so I inform my clients early enough. Some of them are so glad to pay and thank me for the fact that they're not going to. Yes, while some, they'll tell you, let's do this later. And you tell them later, and at some point you have to get tired. So I think it's a thing of both ignorance and complacence.
But there are people who have also blamed lawyers and said that your profession, you just like to collect money, register companies, and then you just go away. You don't necessarily tell your clients that you have to file. And sometimes they just feel, oh, I've registered the business, I've registered my name, I can now carry on my business, and they don't know any better. And do you think it's fair to blame lawyers for not telling their clients about this?
Okay, first and foremost, it's the duty of the lawyer to tell the clients the legal perspective of things. So you can argue that, yes, some lawyers should tell the clients what they ought to do. Because, I mean, you know, you're the lawyer. You know what the law entails. So that's why you're a lawyer, to tell your clients. At the same time, I think the owners of these companies have a lot to lose if they do not make inquiries. So, yes, the company has the legal obligation to inform its clients. And in my own case, I've informed many clients who have not done anything about it. And at the same time, if I own a company, I own a law firm as it stands today, I tend to also make inquiries yearly basis. Okay, these are the legal implications of whatever I'm supposed to do, or these are the business implications. You want to know what it entails on a company. Don't just wake up in the morning or whenever and say, I want to own a company, register a company, start doing business. You have to make inquiries. Get a lawyer, get a professional, ask them the valid questions. What and what do I need to do? Not just open the company, but to keep it running. Because it's one thing to register a company and to keep it successfully running. So I think it goes both ways at this point. But if I'm going to support my people, I'm going to say that all the fault
goes to the clients. Well, let's talk about this, right? Considering the fact that there are a lot of enterprises in Nigeria. They're like one-man businesses, you know. Okay. You look at people who do business on social media and things like that. Yes. For them, you know, I register it, I sell on social media, I just make my money and I go. I mean, are they also liable for this? Are they also supposed to file annual returns?
Okay, first and foremost, to operate any kind of business in Nigeria, so long as you're making money from that business, so long as your business involves other people, you have to register it. If your business is not registered, it's not legal. It has no legal backing. So because I think the purpose of government and law is to protect. That's the foremost, to keep law and order and to protect people. So if anybody can wake up any morning or at any point in time and register a business and start ripping people off, the CAC should be able to protect that. So the idea is to some whereby the CAC maintains a register of companies. The CAC should know every single registered business in Nigeria and what they are up to, who are running those businesses, so that when someone has an issue, you could easily go to the transparent register of the CAC and know the details of that company. Okay. So, no matter what you're selling, be it peanuts, be it airplanes and jets, you're supposed to be compliant to the law. The law doesn't look at your face. The law looks at functionality and utility for everybody's purposes. So yes, I can understand that some people are selling something on social media. Some people are not just somewhere in the market, hidden somewhere. That is why we have business names. We have partnerships, we have small companies, we have large companies. So CAC has categorized companies according to different scales and sizes, depending on how much you make or how much your share capital is, or how much, basically categorized for everybody. Okay, and to be honest with you, for the amount of money you're making in a year, what the CAC is asking for in annual returns, for example, is quite minuscule, in fact, very minor.
Is it general? Is it like one price for everyone? Or?
No, it's not one price. As of the last we checked, as of the current fees, a business name is to pay 3,000 naira in filing fees.
Okay.
That's just the filing fees. And yeah, then companies, depending on your scale, about 5,000 naira. So it's only when you have missed your annual returns that you tend to need to pay more than that. That's an additional 5,000. Yes, a penalty. And I mean, if we're being honest, I believe it's something we cannot afford or want to or wish to afford. Or
so you think that people cannot use the argument of the economy has been bad, so I can't meet up with paying for this. They can't use that argument.
Oh, they can use the argument, but will it work?
For 10 years.
It's one thing to use the argument. Yeah, they can use the argument, and maybe one day CAC can wake up and say, okay, we've waived penalties, we've waived this. I think that is for people to go and beg. But as it stands now, yes, the economy is not the best at the moment, but at the same time, the law is the law. We have to follow it, and the law serves for both the rich and the poor. And like I said, the CAC is cognizant of that fact, and so they've graded their fee structure to fit into everybody, yes.
Yes, but one last question before we wrap up, and that is looking at, because I had this scenario come up with somebody when we're talking about this on another forum. The person was saying that, okay, if you delist a company and maybe the company has some liability or some debts, right? Maybe to a bank or something. Now the company is going to be delisted. Maybe the company got delisted, and then you are trying to recover your money, and the bank is trying to recover their money, and they're like, well, this company doesn't exist anymore. So what happens in that instance?
Okay, that's actually a very good question. I've not thought about that yet, but if a company owes you some form of liability, owes you some form of damages, and the company gets delisted, the company or the people who are the funds origo of the company do not necessarily miss their liability. Okay, so
but there are so many, they're no longer illegal.
They're no more illegal. The company is no more illegal. From my point of view, the company, yes, is no more a legal entity, but you could actually make arguments to see how you could sue those who were directors of the company.
Okay.
So like I said, there are many ways to go about it, but off of where I stand now, what I advise my client to do is, okay, we're going to see how we're going to sue all those who formed the company with proof of the transactions.
Okay.
Okay, yes, you're no more a legal entity, but humans are behind this company.
But if the proof of the transaction is that it's the bank that owns this account,
yes,
you know, I mean, it's the company that owned the account, so the name of the director was not on the list.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, yes, but the fact is that when you are getting to the transaction, you didn't make a transaction with a robot.
Okay.
You spoke with a human being. We can start from that human being you spoke with and get the rest. Okay, so there's something called the corporate veil that only protects you when you're a legal entity. When you're no more a legal entity, that corporate veil is lifted. You could see your bare skin. Okay. The law doesn't see you anymore as a legal entity. The law doesn't separate the individual from the company anymore. You are the individual. So you could actually practically hold that's with you. Yeah, I want my money, or you're owing me, whatever the case is, yes.
Okay.
So yeah, you're no more, in fact, you're no more protected. That's in fact what it means. Once you're no more protected by the corporate veil, you stand bare before you and I. You're you're now a proper human being. You're now a Buka, you're now Obidima. So I will talk to you as a person now, not as a company. Unlike what you'd have been protected by before when you're a company, whereby you say, okay, no, that's not me, you did it with the company, not me. Now the company is no more.
So now it's all on you.
All on you.
But what about if people, like maybe some people don't check and they don't know that these companies were delisted and the companies carry on doing business? Can this be enforced? Or will it now be the fault of whoever didn't check that still continues to do business with them?
Okay, due diligence is important. Before, I think, yeah, I've come to see that most times, most serious companies in Nigeria want to check the status reports of the companies. So what they do is they go to the CSC portal and they check what we call the, when they do a company search. The company search is telling you if or not the company is active. Some go further to check the business transaction of the company. Who are the directors, who are the secretaries, are the company doing what they're supposed to do? That's called due diligence. So before you go into business with any company, engage a professional, okay? Know what that company is up to. Know if they are alive and well. I mean, you can't do business with someone who is very sick. You want to be sure the person is alive and well. So if the person is alive and well, you go ahead and do your business, okay? But in a situation where for some reason that didn't happen, or you did your due diligence and maybe an act of God or something happens and the company is no more active, thankfully we have the law to protect you. But you may not win an argument arguing against them as a legal entity, like I said before. But you have more recourse against the individuals who front the company to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, because sometimes that we're going to take, but you have been very, very helpful. So thank you for coming through.
Thank you very much.
I've been talking with Barrister Ebuka Williams Obidima Esquire from Synergy Legal Partners, and that is the much that we can take today on the Business Lens on Rapid TV. Remember, of course, I will do this again on Monday, looking at all the top stories making the rounds in the world of business, finance, and the economy. My name is Faith Stafford Joseph. Keep watching Rapid TV. The news is up next. Bye-bye.
My name is Akio Sakiodo.
Hey guys, this is Ansel Lecky.
My name is Leo Bliss.
My name is Akava, go by the name Baba D.
And you're tuned into Rapid TV. And I love Rapid TV.